and welcome to the Dr. Tech Show, where myself and Pauline Roche and Sweyn Hunter and occasional guests guide you to the world of online communications in a show which was the brainchild of the late great internet evangelist John Popham. So in true fashion, we ask, how has the weather been this week where you are? So let's start with you, Sweyn. How has the weather been where you are this week?
Well, in Orkney this week, it's been a brilliant week of sunshine, and including unusually the weekend. But today it's pouring with rain, so there we are.
Oh, well, had to happen sometime. And our guest today is Bex Rae-Evans. And Bex, how are you? Where are you? And how's the weather where you are?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you, Pauline. I am in Glossop, which is a small town in Derbyshire. Oh, you know Glossops.
I used to live in Glossop Road in Sheffield. There you go.
Yeah, we're in Sheffield. We're in between Sheffield and Manchester, and the weather's been absolutely lovely this week. We've had sun all week, but I'm worried about this forecast of rain. Not happy about that.
Yeah. Well, here in Galway, in the west of Ireland, it has been again glorious sunshine so far, and in fact, I've got a lovely blue sky now. And I was out earlier for a walk, so it was lovely. There have been some reports in the media of people kind of storming to Galway and enjoying the beaches and so on that people enjoy, and not be too popular, but hopefully everybody has stayed safe and well, and we hope that they continue to do so. So we just celebrate a few things or mark a few things that are happening around this time, and the first thing on our list is from Saturday the 24th of April to Friday the 30th is World Immunization Week 2021. And with the theme, Vaccines Bring Us Closer, very topical, World Immunization Week 2021 shows us how vaccination connects us to the people, goals and moments that matter to us most, helping improve the health of everyone, everywhere, throughout life. So we hope everyone managed to get the immunizations they need and vaccinations that they need, so we can all have better lives together. And so the next one, I actually wanted to ask if everyone here has had their vaccination. I've had one so far. I don't know how everybody else is doing. Sweyn, how are you? Are you in a cohort that gets a vaccination? I seem to be muted. Everybody seems to be frozen, so I'll go on to the next section. Hello.
I'm half vaccinated, just like you, yes. I think your internet is perhaps
my internet. Okay.
Yeah, could be mine.
Okie doke.
Anyway, hopefully we'll just sail through this and it'll just be momentarily. I've been half vaccinated. A bit like you. My internet is not working.
Having a few technical problems there. Bex, how are you on the vaccination front?
Yeah, half done. Booked in for my second one. Very excited.
It is good, isn't it, when we're all getting there. Okay, we're moving on to the next thing we're marking is World Intellectual Property Day, which is Monday 26th of April, and this shines a light on the critical role of small and medium-sized enterprises in the economy and how they can use intellectual property rights to build stronger, more competitive and resilient businesses. And in 2000, the World Intellectual Property Organization member states, which includes Ireland and the UK, designated April 26th, the day on which the Convention for World Intellectual Property Rights came into force in 1970, as World IP Day, with the aim of increasing general understanding of IP. And since then, the World IP Day has offered a unique opportunity each year to join with others around the globe to consider how IP contributes to the flourishing of music and the arts and to driving the technological innovation that helps shape our world. So I'm wondering if either of you have kind of had cause to claim intellectual property rights in any way. Bex, so is that something you're familiar with?
I have a really mixed relationship with IP. I get how it works for the economy, and especially, when you're thinking about music and the arts, but also I think that, access to music and arts and knowledge should be as open as possible, and I think sometimes IP can block that. although I think when we when we think about charity sector as well, and tech for good, if you're creating a tech product that's designed to create social change, you want as many people to use that as possible and use it in whatever way makes sense. But also, it needs to be a product that continues to work. And one way of funding that is by protecting IP. So I think those two things have a real tension. And I always really struggle with the concept of IP. I've recently been working with a university on a project where it was completely and utterly my original idea that I went to some researchers with for research help. And they tried to, well, the researchers really wanted it to be Creative Commons and kind of open license, which I was all for, but the university very quickly tried to lock it down. Luckily, we've got out of that, but the university wanted to have and own the IP, which I thought was really strange. So yeah, I have a mixed relationship with IP.
Yeah. Sweyn, have we got you on the line? I'm not sure we have, so we'll yeah, I mean I've
yes, intermittently, I think.
You're kind of coming and going, Sweyn. I'll just say that
I'll be quiet, you go ahead.
Yeah,
yes, I'll be quiet, you go ahead.
This brings us back to our one of our favorite topics, which is libraries. And in the public library system in Birmingham, they have a business section that that gives people help with IP as one of the things. And I went to a few lectures about it before lockdown closes all down last year, because I wanted to see about copywriting the title Digital WM, which is my newsletter. Digital WM News, and I didn't get as far as talking to anybody about it, and probably those words are too generic to be able to. Maybe as a phrase I could do it, but anyway, I didn't get that far, and I'm not too bothered about it now. It's out there in the wild. So we'll see how I mean, but my point is, libraries are great at helping people, think about those things and help them to work through it. So another thing that we're marking at this time is Wednesday, 28th of April, World Day for Safety and Health at Work. And this is a UN observance that we have. It focuses on this year's World Day for Safety and Health at Work, focuses on leveraging the elements of an OSH system, Occupational Safety and Health, as set out in the promotional framework for such convention in 2006. And this World Day report examines how the current crisis demonstrates the importance of strengthening these occupational safety and health systems, including occupational health services at both the national and undertaking level. So good thing to know that that's being monitored and marked. Okay, so Sweyn unfortunately seems to be coming and going, so we'll press on, Bex, and hope for the best. So a couple of events that are happening that people might be able to take advantage of. If you're listening to this on Monday 26th, from 6:30 to 8:30 this evening, there's an event called Good Data, an Optimist's Guide to Our Digital Future, which is the launch of a book of the same name, or an event about the book of the same name, a Beyond Books event organised by Civic Square in Birmingham. An event with Andy Reeve in conversation with Sam Gilbert, who explores how the explosion of information can change our world for the better. And the blurb for the event talks about how data touches everything from our biggest hates, online advertising, in this case, for the organisers, to our greatest loves, which are our family and our pets. And we've had some pets on the show already. In his fascinating new book, Sam Gilbert proves how, if we can embrace the revolution, even the ads, we could all vastly improve our lives. So I've signed up for that, and I'm hoping that I'll learn something that I didn't know before about data. I'm always keen to learn how data is enhancing our lives. As everybody knows, I'm a big data fan. Bex, how are you around data and good data? Are you a fan?
Oh, I'm a massive fan. I've started getting right into data lately, and I might even take some data analytics courses and learn how to use some software. I'm not in any way at the moment some sort of data scientist, but it sounds nice. I think I'd like to be. So I'm going to do some courses in R and other things that people have told me about that sound nice.
Yeah. Oh, there you are on the screen. Sam Gilbert and his book, Good Data, An Optimist's Guide to Our Digital Future. Yeah, I mean, the Civic Square people always organise great events. I was at one at the weekend on Babs on Bikes, and there's a whole series of events about beyond books and exploring more than just the publishing of a book. I mean, Andy Reeve is a real data expert, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say and what Sam Gilbert has to say as well. Sweyn, how are you on the data front? Are you keen on data and good data?
Absolutely keen on it. Not ever really done very much about it, but yes, if the data is not any good, I'm a big stickler for making sure that data is used, or if data is reused, that it's reused in a way that's valid, given what was collected, how it was collected, and what the quality of the data is like the first time around. So if you've got to reuse data, it's not enough just to find some. You've got to understand how it was collected, what it means, and how accurate it is, whether or not it's going to be good for your purposes or not. I think I see quite a lot of people of situations where that doesn't happen, and that can lead to some kind of questionable apparent facts appearing.
Yeah. Well, I think we mentioned the show before. There's an upcoming Data for Good festival in May, 10th to the 12th of May, where we're going to have a lot of opportunities for people who are attending to examine more around data for good and various opportunities mapping and all kinds of things that data is good for. So I recommend that. And the second event, which Bex is going to be telling us more about in a bit, is on Wednesday, 28th of April from 4 to 6 p.m. The UK Tech for Good network, Tech for Good Organisers Network, is launching, having a soft launch across the UK and Ireland. And this is a network that's building a community of organisers across the UK and Ireland, supporting each other to fuel the Tech for Good movement, which brings me neatly on to my introduction for Bex. We're delighted that you could join us today. And looking at your LinkedIn, which we often rely upon for our guests' introduction, you're a strategist, a service designer, and researcher for social good, with a varied and extensive background in design and digital working with blue chip clients on award-winning research, marketing, websites projects. You have grown and led multiple successful teams of researchers, digital experts, and content creators. Rebecca specializes in digital transformation, service design, and cause-related product innovation. She has a large amount of experience sharing knowledge, originating new ideas, and challenging the status quo, which is one we like to hear more of. And this has led to speaking at international conferences, including TEDx, and being an associate lecturer and mentor at a variety of higher education organizations, including Manchester Metropolitan University, University of Salford, and the acclaimed Hyper Island. Rebecca also founded Tech for Good Live, which is a series of events and podcasts looking at how tech can be used for social good and how we can be better at ethics within the tech industry. And Bex is one of the leading lights in the about to be launched Tech for Good UK network. So we've invited her on the show. Tell us more about that. But first, Bex, please tell us how you got started in digital. What's your early career look like?
Oh, wow. My very early career, I was an avionics engineer and I built military aircraft, and then and I quite liked the techie side of things there. So, but I also really liked being creative. Like when I was in school, I was like, should I either do physics or art? I don't know. And they're very different. So I did physics and I really liked it. But at the end of that, I realised I was a pacifist and didn't want to build military aircraft anymore. I thought, I'm still young, I'll go and try the art thing. So went and did a degree in design management, and through that started doing a lot more digital work. And this was a long time ago, so we were building in Flash and whatnot back then. I remember Flash; that was good times. And I think the digital side of things really meshed with kind of my engineering background and the programming stuff I'd done at college for that. So I think that's like my initial lead into the digital world. Through engineering, weirdly.
Yeah. Well, not unusual for other people. I think have also have done that. So after avionics, where did you go to then?
Yeah, so did a degree in design management at Salford University, and then after that entered the industry and bounced around a bunch of jobs because I wasn't really sure where I fit and where my skill set would work. I think a lot of people do that in our industry, and especially because at the time digital as part of that industry was pretty new, so it's hard to figure out where I kind of fit. Did some social media stuff, did some digital research stuff, and ended up kind of diverging. My personal kind of morals and values had really grown over the years after leaving military aircraft. And I was doing things like I'd become a vegetarian. I sat off my car and was cycling everywhere, and all of these things were becoming really important to me. And in my day job, I was like working for a PR company selling dresses, effectively building websites that sold dresses to girls who maybe didn't want those dresses, and the marketing tactic was to make them feel bad about what they look like. And I just thought, what am I doing? This just does not fit with my worldview. What am I going to do? So moved into working in the charity sector. So still kind of agency side, working in agencies, but only working for people doing social good in some way or another. And that's predominantly was working with charities, which has led to where I am now.
And along the way, you set up the Tech for Good live podcast. Can you say a bit about that?
Yeah, so I think it's about nearly 5. I think it's 5 next month, actually. 5 years old. We a bunch of people who are working in the charity digital space. We used to go to the pub after work and whinge about our days and all the things that were annoying us about the tech sector. And we thought, well, obviously, when you've had a few pints, we thought we were hilarious and thought we should record what we were saying. So that's kind of how it started. I'd been on local community radio as a fun thing to do, All FM in Levenshulme, shout out 96.9. And that was great. I really enjoyed doing that just for fun on Saturdays. So I had radio experience. My colleague Ben had radio experience. He'd been on the same community radio station. That's how we met. And then we had someone who had done an audio degree, but ended up in the digital world instead. So it just made sense to kind of, let's do a podcast. And then 5 years later, I think 200 podcasts later, we're still going weekly. We do, weekly podcast where a bunch of us, and the team's expanded now. So I think there's maybe about 6 or 7 regular guests that come on from all around the world. We have American regulars now that come on, and we talk about good things the charity sector is doing in tech, and also bad things that the tech sector is doing generally, because that's fun, right? It's fun to whinge about Facebook and what they're up to. So yeah, that's the podcast. And we get
excellent.
guests on. Guests, they were much more important than any of the regular guests. We have important people saying important things every week.
I hope I'm sharing your home screen there.
Yes.
Tech for Good Live. That's good. Yep.
Yeah. Whenever people ask me about podcasts in our sector, I always refer them on to Bex, because she, as far as I'm concerned, she's the queen of all this, and she knows what she's doing and can put them right or whatever, correct there.
It's terrible, isn't it? There's like a really bad negative press around podcasts at the minute, because the World and the Dog has a podcast nowadays. But I've been doing it for 10 years, so I think I get let off. It wasn't cool when I started doing podcasts.
No, and that's what I love about some of our guests and kind of ourselves as well. We were doing this. We have credibility. I think we were doing this before it got popular or whatever. So I'm very happy with our progress so far. So Bex, let's go on to talk about the Tech for Good UK network, because I think listeners will be interested to hear what Tech for Good is, how this got started, and a bit more about how maybe they can get involved if there are people out there who might be interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we do podcasts at Tech for Good Live, but we also run monthly events as well locally in the Manchester area. It was hard doing that for 5 years, and we're a bunch of volunteers who run it, and we always tried to do an event every single month, and it's really tough to do, and it's always nice to have kind of a support network around you, but I didn't really know of that many other people running events that were similar to mine at the time, and then we started to get to know a couple of other people in the sector who were also running. We had Tech for Good Live, there was Tech for Good Southwest, there was other Tech for Good somewhere. It was great. Other people who are doing the same as us. So Catalyst Network funded a piece of research to find out how important these communities or networks were to charities, because obviously that's their focus. These networks don't all just focus on charities, they're quite cross-sector and try and get everyone in one space to solve social issues, but their focus was charity. So I was commissioned to do a piece of research on what was good about the communities for charities. We found out loads of stuff, and obviously very beneficial. I think I can go into that research a little bit in a little bit more detail if you want, but I'll start by how we led to the UK network. So after that piece of research, 7 networks were chosen by the Catalyst to start working together. So to see how it would work. So this was just at the start of lockdown, and I think that was really good timing for us, because effectively we were kind of running a community of community organisers, a bit meta, but we really supported each other a lot, and especially with, we're all pivoting to online events. We're all really stressed out with our work. We all work in the charity sector in our day jobs, volunteer, running the networks at night. So obviously the charity sector was overwhelmed with trying to figure out how to digitally transform. So we were all in a very difficult space. So it was really nice to have these monthly meetings where we would meet and talk to each other, and like provided a great sense of emotional support, but also practical support. So we were also talking about how have you gone online with your events? Like, what have you used? What platforms have you used? How's it worked? So we shared practical advice as well as like emotional support. So that was like almost like the prototype of a UK network, and those 7 organisations really benefited from it. So yeah, we kind of decided to open it up to more people, and now we've got, I think there's 13 founding networks, but more people involved more widely as well. And we're calling it a soft launch, because up until this point we've kind of been working together over a few months just to figure out what this network might look like, how it might work. So there's been quite a lot of work gone into it, but I think there's still a few things we want to get right to the soft launch. That's why we're calling it soft launch. We haven't really got like a brand or anything fancy like that. But what we do want to do is make sure that we've got a diverse set of other community organisers in the tech for good space. So we want to like reach out now at this point to make sure that we've got the people involved that we need involved. And I guess like one of the big things that people keep asking is, well, what's a tech for good network? And for us, it's just, if you feel like you might be a tech for good network, then you probably are. You don't have to be called tech for good anything.
Just to ask you quickly, the tech for good tag or name, where does that come from? What is it? Is it something that you've invented, or is that something wider, or what is it?
You know what? I don't actually 100% know exactly where it came from, but over the last few months, it's kind of, I guess it's a hashtag. Like that's like probably it's a movement. It's a word and that people have been using over the last few years. Like 5 years ago, when we set up Tech for Good Live, we were like debating like Tech for Good seems to be a thing that people understand in some way or another. Should we use it? And it felt like the right terminology to use.
Okay, I was just interested.
If someone asked you, Bex, what was the opposite of tech for good, what would you say?
Tech for bad, it exists.
Paper for bad.
It is a thing. I think there's like tech for deliberately bad, or tech for, tech for profit, probably, for overly commercializing people's data, etc. And then there's like tech for whatever you want to do, but it's probably not for social good. And then for me, tech for social good is advancing like positive social change.
I suppose you could have no tech for good, where you're trying to do everything on paper or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, because
although you're trying to do good, you ignore the emerging technical means of doing it. I guess you could have it that way around as well.
I know, because I've had some involvement in the network, because I with another hat on, I run a network, a Tech for Good network in the Midlands. I know that when we set up our meetup page, for example, I put down Tech for Social Good, because I wanted to make sure people understood that I wasn't dissing their technology efforts, which people get very sensitive. I mean, people who do technology with other hats on get a bit sensitive, don't they, about our definitions.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a difficult term to kind of nail down, and there's been so many discussions between people who I know work in the sector in some way or another about whether that's the right term to use or not. And personally, I just get really tired of those conversations. So I'm just going to go with whatever people say is the right thing to use right now. And Tech for Good works for me. And absolutely. There's like a whole bunch of people who maybe don't work as ingrained in the charity sector as we do, that are like more tech people, that maybe do feel an offence at the for good part. You say, because like you said, what's the opposite of Tech for Good? People regularly say, well, are you saying that I work on Tech for Good if I'm Tech for bad if I'm not working on Tech for Good? I'm like, well, yeah, maybe, potentially, but you need to like get over that. But yeah, maybe it isn't that easy to get over that. And yeah, terminology is a thing that we need to consider, but I can't be bothered anymore.
So whereabouts in the UK and Ireland are the current networks based?
Yeah, all over the place. So some of them are don't have a physical space, so they're more thematic. So we've got organisations, for example, like Creating Conversations is based in Wales, and Wales is important to the work that they do. But that is also youth. It has a youth focus, so they only work with youth charities. We've got Oxford hasn't quite set up yet, but they're trying to set up. So they're part of the network. We've got Tech for Good South West, Manchester, Digital for Good in Scotland, Exeter, North East, Midlands, London, all sorts. Yeah, lots of different networks going on.
And you're making links with networks in Ireland as well, I understand.
Yeah. Dublin aren't one of the founding networks at the minute, but have been closely involved with what we've been doing. Just didn't have the headspace just yet to be a founding member.
Yeah. Well, just with another hat on that both Sweyn and I have around Open Data Camp, we held a very successful, not one that Sweyn was involved in, but previous to this, very successful Open Data Camp in Belfast. In fact, I think a lot of our organisers think it was one of the most enjoyable ones that we had, because it was really great to be in another part of the UK and meet, like so many people in Ireland, north and south, are very keen on technology and its benefits. So it was really great to have more diversity involved. So what kind of things are you hoping to support from the launch of the network, Bex?
Yeah, so I think initially what we've got at the moment practically is a Slack group, which we can open up to people to start chatting to each other. We have a drive, which is the start of what we're calling a knowledge base, where people can start to put templates and whatnot in of things that they've done or any research that they might have done. So there's a bunch of research in there at the moment about volunteering and how to help recruit volunteers to help run your network. Or there's also a lot of networks that do volunteer matching as well to charity in the tech sector. So there's a bunch of research that's been done on that that's in that drive already. Yeah, so the initial kind of thought is let's just all get together a little bit and support each other. We're going to have monthly meetups where we just chat about stuff we're working on and try and find support within the network. But then, there's lots of stuff that could happen in the future that we're quite excited about. Like, as a group of people all working in the Tech for Good space, we have like more of a voice. If we join together, we could potentially get funding to help support some of the work that we're doing. We could, lobby or something, I don't know, change policy as a group of people that, are also responsible for other groups of people. Quite a lot of people if you start to add up everybody involved in this piece of work.
Great. And it's great to hear you encouraging people who are not quite sure if they are a Tech for Good network organizer to get involved, or at least to contact somebody involved in the network and have a chat with them, because I know myself from time to time I can feel like I'm not doing enough, or is it okay to call myself that, because we don't do as much as everybody else does. But I think it's about working with what you have where you are, and recognizing that not everybody's going to be at the same place on the scale of things, and it's important to start somewhere and give people a bit of a focus to get something else off the ground. What are the kind of things that you've gained from the contact with other networks so far?
Honestly, for me, it has mainly been kind of like emotional support. To like have other people in exactly the same situation as yourself, and they're all going through the same thing. It's just good to know and to hear what they have done to kind of overcome that sort of stuff as well. It's a really energizing space to be in. Like, every time I have a meeting with that group of people, I leave it feeling really positive and happy that I've spoke to everybody. We're getting, I think we did interesting what you said, Pauline, about inclusivity as well, making sure everyone feels welcome, because we are all starting to get to know each other bit by bit, but we have new people come all the time. So we want to make sure it's a welcoming space, despite the fact that there are people who've been involved for longer. So we are doing pieces of work around what that looks like as well, and to make sure that everybody feels like they could be a part of the group. There's no expectations around people to do stuff. So if you don't have time to support and you just want to nip in and find out a little bit about something, then that's okay. And we want to make sure it's a space for that. So we managed to also get a little bit of funding from Luminate and the Co-op Foundation, who funded an organisation called Collaborative Futures to work with us to try and help us make sure we were being inclusive along the way as well. And part of that is to reach out to the networks who maybe don't feel like they are included at the minute. So we are doing a lot of legwork to actually try and personally identify those networks as well, and having a talk to them, seeing what they think.
It sounds to me, reading through your principles and values and so on, that if as long as anyone didn't feel they were definitely being bad with technology, then joining in would make them better. So I think that's it all looks great.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's come across.
I like the principles, working in the open, lead by example, do no harm, stroke, operate responsibly, and don't ponder and do. And it's kind of, it feels refreshing that, you're saying to people, we can work together. What we do other people might learn from, and then forgiveness around making mistakes. I think often people are afraid to try something because they're afraid they'll make a mistake and then that'll be the end of it. But I think in this kind of open and transparent world, it's, you're not about punishing people for making mistakes. You're about, well, what can we learn from that? How can we do that better? How could we help each other to and for that not to happen again?
Yeah, absolutely, because that's how we learn, right? All of my biggest learnings in life have been through failure. So yeah, that failure's okay, as long as we're not harming anyone in the process. So we've been working with using sociocracy, which is a model of decision making that is supposed to help everybody be heard and make sure that you can propose whatever
Can you say the
want.
name of it again, please?
Sociocracy. Sociocracy.
Wow. How do you spell that?
Sociocracy. Sociocracy.
Sociocracy. Okay. It's a new one.
I like the sound of it. However you spell it, I like it.
Sociocracy. I had to Google it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's we've identified it as like kind of an inclusive way of making decisions and making sure that everybody can propose whatever they want. And it's about a certain level of risk. Like, is it okay to give it a go? Is kind of the point. Yeah, and if yeah, and we all agree that that's okay to go and give it a go, then people can go and give things a go. Which is really nice.
Through the power of spelling and Wikipedia, here's a Wikipedia page on it.
Yeah.
No, it sounds great.
Yes.
Also called dynamic governance, as a system of governance which seeks to create psychologically safe environments and productive organizations. It is distinguished by the use of consent rather than majority voting in discussion and decision making by people who have a shared objective or work process. Sounds brilliant. Sounds brilliant. Never heard of it before, so thank you for that one.
Yeah. No, it was new to a lot of us as well. We were lucky enough to go on some training to help figure it out, and you learn by doing as well. So we're just trying to practice it in our chats when we make decisions about the network itself.
Just reading out a short passage there for our listeners on Hope Radio on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, so they can't see me sharing the screen.
So how we're now in April, Bex, how are you thinking about the next 6 months and how this will, or 3 months even, how far forward are you thinking and how this might kind of shape up?
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see what happens at the soft launch, because part of having a soft launch was to bring new people in, but also for us to kind of draw a line under, we've been like powering forward just on setting up the network, but we haven't really given ourselves as much space as previously to just support each other and hang out, and the whole purpose of the network kind of got pushed to one side just to make the network, which was a little bit confusing. So we're hoping that line in the sand, most of the hard work has been done. There's a few little things we want to get done, like we've not quite got a final defined code of conduct. We've not got like a fancy brand or a one pager. We're kind of just using Google Drive at the minute, which is fine for now. So there's bits and bobs we want to work on, but I think the launch is a line in the sand for starting to move towards supporting each other again and making sure that Slack community is active and that the events that we're having are productive to people on a monthly basis. But also, I think what's quite exciting about it is anyone that does come on board now at the soft launch, you can shape what we do, because we're still figuring it out ourselves. What we've put is as another line in the sand is we said for the initial fit period of 6 months is what the founding members kind of for to help with this governance stage and figuring out what it looks like. After those 6 months, we'll refigure out what ongoing governance might look like for the network, which makes sense really, because we are still figuring it out. In 6 months' time, we'll know more about what it looks like, what it feels like, how people are interacting with it, what kind of governance, if any, if like touch.
Yeah.
Or something.
It's almost as if you're applying to your own organization the principles that you're trying to work by. So that sounds great to me as well.
Yeah.
I think what I've enjoyed most about the network, the kind of burgeoning network, is I mean, I was doing this in the past anyway, but like if there were online events, certainly in the last 12 months that other network members were offering, I felt completely fine about dropping in and, you know, joining an event that might be at the other end of the country or in another country even. And you know, that I was made feel welcome, and I think that's important. That you know, it's good to have events that are relevant to your own local area, but if they can be expanded and that knowledge applied elsewhere, then that's all for the good. I mean, we in the Midlands, in the Net Squared Midlands group, we have over 200 members at last check, but you know, if they were able to learn something from another network and bring it back to the Midlands, then I thought that was really good. Have you yourself been to you know, found yourself attending events or other parts of the country, Beck, since lockdown?
You know what? No, because I spend all day on Zoom, and the thought of like another event on top of my day has I've really struggled, and I felt like proper FOMO. Because for the first time, as you say, I can go to London events without having to get on a train for 3 hours, which was, you know, sounded great. And the stuff that they're talking about is really relevant to what I do, and it's brilliant. But just, we've not been running our own Zoom events for the same reason, that none of the team had that headspace to, you just can't. We did 2 remote events and then like just couldn't anymore. I couldn't face it. So I'm looking forward to, I think I've got the headspace now to start attending and creating our own events again, which is really great.
How have you sorry, Sweyn, do you want to come in on that? Because you're someone who lives, you know, up there.
Way up there.
How have you, I mean, the last 12 months have been game changing for you, I would say.
They have in some ways. Although I think I overdid it to begin with. I mean, because my work is largely running up Microsoft Teams or similar. And then I was signing myself up to everything that I've ever wanted to travel to and not been able to. And really, it was a bit much in kind of about April, May, June time last year. So I've been trying to be a lot more selective recently, because there is, as you say, Bex, only a certain amount of Zooming that you can do in one kind of 7-day period. But having said that, what I've really noticed is how inclusive events have become to people who previously might have been excluded from them. And I don't just mean complaining Scottish Islanders like myself. I mean people who can't travel for one reason or another, whether it's disability or caring responsibilities or whatever. So I think there is in terms of, as it were, building back better, to use a horrible phrase, I think there is a piece of work to do to see what we can salvage from this situation, to try and make opportunities available. And I think I particularly focus on disabled people and people who, for one reason or another, can't travel due to caring responsibilities. Is there a way that rather than trying to bung a video up on YouTube later, is there a way that we can properly include people in at least some of the events that we haven't really done that by so far? And really, if anything, apart from enabling people to tell their stories, if John Popham was doing anything in his life, that was it. He was trying to encourage people to make their events available, and also conversely to actually attend in that way if you can. But I think there'll be a period of time when we're also relieved to be able to go and do things in person again. That's probably where the focus will lie for a little while at least. But there's a few people, and there's a few people that we've spoken to over the past few weeks and months on this program, and where I've spoken to them otherwise, who kind of get the point that there's a piece of design work to do to sort of categorize events and match them with the different ways of making them available online that there are, because it's not all about just a live meeting like this one that we're doing in Zoom and piping out to YouTube. There's a whole series of different ways of including people, and we need to be a bit creative, I think, in just kind of almost categorizing types of events and developing standard approaches for the spectrum of events that might actually add to them and make them more inclusive, because there is a great danger in live streaming or making events available online, and that is that you destroy the event in the room by all the hassle of having cameras and microphones and all that sort of stuff. So we don't want to go down that line either. That's before you start to consider things like, do people want to be on the screen and all that sort of stuff, in terms of respect and confidentiality in some cases. So yeah, it's a big topic, but I think the pandemic has shown us, I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic, it's shown us how much of that stuff is possible, even if it's unwise in certain cases.
Yeah.
It's a long ramble from me again.
No, I think that was really useful, and one of the other groups of people that I think we wouldn't want to leave out is neurodivergent people, for whom getting to events, it just causes all kinds of stress, and then we would lose on their insights if they weren't able to be there in some kind of hybrid. Have you done, Bex? Have you done thinking about hybrid events going forward?
Well, we kind of always did them hybrid for accessibility purposes anyway. I mean, we never quite got it right, because filming does take a lot of work, and we never quite got that right. We tried to Periscope. Don't know if anyone remembers Periscope. Yeah. We tried to do that we did it for most of our events, but it never quite worked because of signal in the room, and it would drop out, and who's even on Periscope? So was anyone even seeing it? So we haven't really got it right yet, but we have always tried. We live tweet, we blog from every event, so we're trying to cover like all the mediums for all the different types of people who like to consume content in different ways. But yeah, I don't think we've got it right or put too much thought. I think
there's quite a lot of work to be done in that area by focusing on that area itself. I think everyone is trying to do as we are here. They're trying to kind of broadcast their stuff and hope that it's of use. I think there's a piece of work to be done to try and draw some lines almost around the possible and the possible, the wise and the unwise and the impossible, in terms of whether it's an informal networking event, or whether it's a formal big auditorium event, whether it's a training course, whatever it is, and to try and, I mean, this is really what brought me into this kind of digital inclusion work in the first place, was trying to work out ways of broadcasting our own events from here for people that can join into them if they want to, but equally trying to persuade people in the big centres of population, including Sheffield or Manchester, to try and make their stuff available in a kind of open way where that's possible. But there's also the question, of course, of the commercial side of all of this. For some people, running events is a well understood commercial activity, and we need to work out how to make online inclusion, at the very least, not lose money for people who are organising events commercially as well, because it's a perfectly valid thing to do. So there's a whole lot of stuff, and I would love to give up my day job and just spend my time on that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, for me as well, I think what happens sometimes, especially when it's less events like this and more, in the charity sector, somebody said, okay, right, we need to make this an online event. Now, it used to be a face-to-face event. It now needs to be online because we're in a pandemic. And I don't think that's the right way of thinking about it. I think the right way of thinking about it is, well, what was the event designed to do? And how do we do that online, which might not be event. And most people are just doing Zooms for like coffee mornings. And you're like, well, why were you doing the coffee? No one's coming to your Zoom event because they don't want to randomly show up to a Zoom event. It's too scary. There's loads of reasons why people don't come to your coffee morning on Zoom. And that's because it's not the right format that you've converted it to. What were you actually trying to do with the coffee thing? It was trying to create a community, allow a space for people to like bring up conversations. Maybe it's a WhatsApp group that you need to do now. And actually what we've done at Tech for Good Live, instead, I said I couldn't do the Zoom events. We just didn't have the energy to do Zoom events anymore. But what we missed was the community. So we've been working really hard on our Slack group to try and get that more of a community feel and to get conversations happening in there. And we've also, we set up volunteer matching, because what we found was the charities wanted one-to-one help. Charities needed to know how to do digital, right? And that's what our events were for. But now we were like, well, actually a better way of doing that is to match up individual charities with individual volunteers. So we were still doing the same thing. It was just a different way that we were delivering it for a digital kind of environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was for a couple of months there was a whole stream of stuff that was coming out about the importance of the asynchronous connection between meetings and all that sort of stuff. And I don't actually think very much work has been done on that, given by especially not going by my diary. It's all, it's all still we'll meet for an hour a week and do this and little enough in between. Yeah. So I think that's right. It's like anything else, it's a design question.
Yeah, definitely. Bex, if you don't mind, we'll just talk about a few of the stories that we picked up along the way. Feel free to stay on and comment about them, just because
This is where I have to find the right one to bring up.
We'd like to keep our listeners up to date with what we've been discovering about what's been happening. So the first story is about O2 announcing 0 rating for support websites during COVID-19, and we were interested in this because Chris Ashworth, who is also part of the Tech for Good UK network, actually was just joined recently, tweeted about it, and according to the this press release, more than 20 websites are now 0 rated on O2, in addition to NHS websites. And this was a story at the end of March. And from the end of March, O2 customers, it says, won't use any of their network data when they browse a range of financial guidance, health and emotional support, and advice service sites on their O2-enabled devices. And additional 0 rated sites included Citizens Advice, Money Advice Service, and Mind. And O2 is actually owned by Telefonica, which I think is a Spanish company. So they announced this 0 rating on 26th of March to help its customers access the support they need worry-free during the crisis. So customers who are on O2 won't use any of their allocated monthly data allowance when browsing a whole host of support, financial guidance, advice, and charity sites. So there's 22 sites as well as the NHS sites. And that sounds to me like something that a lot of people will find very beneficial. I'm not on O2 myself, but there's a whole list on screen now of the different headings for the different 0 rating sites that are available. So citizens advice, financial advice, mental health and emotional support, support for older people, support for young people, health support, disability support, and bereavement support. So a whole range of organizations.
Specific sites there under each of those headings that now will not cost you in your data deal with O2, which is good news.
Sounds like a brilliant initiative, and one that we can certainly support and others. What do you think, Bex? Is this a goer for other companies, would you say?
No, I absolutely love this. I think what the interesting thing here again is the offline versus online thing. Like offline, these services are free, and you talk about them being free online as well, because they don't charge to access them. But of course, the internet itself and data isn't free. So it wasn't a free service online, but now it is. So that's great.
It would be great to, just on that point, you should maybe think some, who knows? It would be nice to know how many of these organizations have free phone numbers. And that kind of adds to what you're saying, because we've got as far as taking away the telecommunication call charge, and now in O2 at least it's free in data terms as well.
Yeah, so a really good example that we'll be supporting and promoting. The next one is about an online safety and digital literacy platform called NatterHub, which this one I only discovered this morning, but they're seeking young advisors on internet safety. They're calling on for young people to join a board as valued advisors on internet safety, looking for young people aged 9 to 16 to join a series of virtual panel discussions conducted via Zoom, where they will share insights and experiences about their lives online and on screen. And they'll represent children and teens on matters in which their voices are often overlooked, giving them a chance to advocate for the digital changes they'd like to see to make the internet a safer and happier space. For those who don't know, NatterHub is a dedicated online issues designed as a social media platform where children learn how to stay safe and behave responsibly online. And when facilitating these virtual discussions, NatterHub will work closely with the panel to understand and respond to their input to reshape the platform and its content. And these meetings will start in May and be held in small groups based on age range, and all participants will need permission from the parents in order to take part. And on top of pushing for positive change that will benefit their future, The young advisors will gain employable skills in confidence, communication, entrepreneurship, and more. And the deadline for applying for these panels is Friday, the 30th of April. So if you look on the Natter Hub website.
And it really is Natter Hub. This is
Yeah.
a very John Popham initiative.
Very.
NATTER Hub, Natter Hub, all one word. And as John says, what the internet is for is letting people natter to each other. So there we go.
Definitely. Well, it's great to see a platform actually looking for young advisors, because we often talk about communities, about what they need without involving them in the design of it. So it's a good piece of user, what do they call this, Bex? Is this user design, user research?
Co-creation, right?
Yeah,
co-creation.
Yeah. Do you work? I'm sure you do work with the users very much, Bex, in designing anything you're making.
Yeah, one of my favourites at the minute is well, actually, I did a similar one to this not long ago, where we were looking at digital information literacy for children in schools. But we're delivering it by teachers, so we work with the teachers to help build that. But a really great example of this is Sweyn, which is an organisation that supports survivors of sexual assault, and they have about 200 volunteers, I think, all over the world, and a lot of them are survivors themselves, and they build the services and products between themselves, which I think is brilliant. It's really great. Yeah.
Yes, I have a lot of time for Sweyn and Hira Hussain, who's the CEO there. We might try and get her on the show at some stage. It's a really great example of, they were using tech long before everybody else kind of jumped on the bandwagon they joined in last year so much, and they've done some really great work locally and internationally.
I think it was such a great example of a digital kind of first charity. So they're a small charity, and they don't let that stop them from using digital or use it as an excuse for not using digital. But that's because when they set up with digital in mind, so they haven't had to go through like digital change. They were just always digital, which has made it a lot easier for them to embrace new technology.
Yeah, I particularly like their they have a chat bot on their website, a little kitten, I think it is, and it's just a very nice example of some very simple use of tech that keeps people involved, even when there aren't people there to answer questions. So others could learn from that. Okay, our next story was about how the National Pensioners Convention believes that the digital-only agenda excludes many older people and violates their human rights. And they've actually written to the Secretary of State for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport, the Right Honourable Oliver Dowden MP, about this. And the General Secretary of the NPC, which is the UK's largest campaign group for older people, says access to information is a human right, and those without technology are being excluded by the drive to digitalise everything from essential health services to ticket purchases and everyday milk and goods deliveries. And the NPC research shows that their members are suffering exclusion in many areas through the drive to digital-only services. And he says, while this may be worthwhile for businesses and indeed the government, customer choice does not seem to feature in their decisions. And they realise digitalisation is inevitable, but the process by which it takes place can and should be approached differently. And they outline a raft of issues in their letter to the Secretary of State. A raft of issues facing older people due to rampant digitalisation that makes few concessions to those who do not have or do not want access to the internet, and that may even breach the Equality Act of 2010. And they include an example of the UK's biggest milk delivery moving to digital only and forcing thousands of elderly customers to open online accounts or use the service, and they can supply details of someone that's happened to. Another example, being asked to take a photograph of an injury to email to your GP is no earthly good if you don't have the equipment to do so. So they've made recommendations to the Secretary of State to help people access the internet, including investment in making broadband more accessible and safer for older and vulnerable people, and some viable offline alternatives for those who cannot or choose not to go online. So they make some very good points there, and we've talked before about when people are developing digital services, they need to make sure they offer an offline service as well. And in fact, we had a story last week about a gentleman who wanted to go to the pub for a pint, and he didn't have a smartphone, so he couldn't book his
he
place.
Thought he couldn't book.
Yeah,
or the pub thought he couldn't book, or something. A lot of these digital only stories end up being failures in communication rather than actual active exclusions. And I just think there's more of people providing services just need to put more of an emphasis on remembering the people that they are also providing services in a kind of traditional fashion. But there's always exceptions. This milk delivery thing going digital only, it doesn't sound very great. But I think most times so far, it's to do with people not advertising that there is an offline option, or people assuming that there isn't when they're trying to access a service. I mean, I suppose it's a bit the same as when banks and other things like that went kind of onto telephone only. It wasn't a great increase in the customer experience at the time, really, was it? I mean, if you're used to just going along to your bank and doing business by turning up and saying hello to somebody you see, once a month or twice a week or whatever, it's not really as good to even to ring a free number and be held in a queue for 45 minutes and then spoken to about somebody that you'll never see again. And I think digital services risk similar user loss, user experience loss, as all the white heat and enthusiasm that people like us have for introducing them all. You've got to remember that people are people and will not all react positively to any new way of doing things.
Yeah. Bex, what are you finding in your work when people are developing digital services? Are you having to remind them that some people are just not going to be able to use a digital service?
Yeah, I think some people just don't realize that a lot of people can't use digital. I was in the post office the other day, and it was such a sad situation where there was an old man in front of me in the line, and he got to the front and he said, "How do I pay my TV license?" And the woman was like, "You don't pay at the post office anymore, you do it online." And then
wow.
And then well, apparently it's been like that for a very long time. And he said, "Well, I don't have the internet, so how do I pay it?" And she said, "Well, there is a phone number you can call." And he was like, "Where do I get this phone number?" And she was like, "Off the internet." And I was like, bless her. I'm sure she wasn't expecting this conversation today, but there was just this definite barrier between her understanding that this guy just did not have the internet. He couldn't access it at a library because libraries are closed because of COVID. And there was no way for him to get access to the internet. And anyway, the conversation just took a turn when he started asking, well, who was paying it before? How were you paying it before? Because we haven't had the service in post offices for a very long time, for a few years. And he was like, somebody else was paying it for me. And she was like, well, why can't they still pay it? And I thought, don't ask that. I know exactly where this is going. It was his wife and she died. And she was so flustered, she even said things like, well, why didn't you figure it out before she died? Why didn't you figure it out? And I thought, what is even happening? So I had to step in at that point, and I found the phone number online and wrote down the phone number for him. But clearly there's like a big service issue there where no one's thought about how are we going to deal with the people that do come into the post office. All you needed was a piece of paper that had the phone number on.
Yes.
There must be loads of them.
Yeah.
Loads of people and loads of numbers that, are alternatives. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, not a great situation for that poor guy.
Yeah.
And I think this is great as well. Absolutely love this initiative and that they've addressed it. It comes up so often in my work that somebody just digitized all of their services. I think we need to be careful about just talking about old people, because a lot of old people are great on the internet, and also there's loads of other people who can't access online as well.
That's another theme that we try and emphasize. So thank you for that again. I'm just on the TV licensing page now, and you can still pay by check or postal order, but it took me ages to find out that. I think though, I mean, how technology can improve everyone's life though, is for organizations to build in service to people without the customer actually having to be online, but the technology can improve the service that the staff or the volunteers or whoever it is. I mean, there's two different things there, but you're designing a digital service for somebody who's actually the user of that service. But there's also an important part to build into, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, a piece of paper with the phone number for the television license people. It's, that could be even the knowledge of a post office clerk or whoever to find the website and write down the phone number, something. But there's training, and there's a staff or volunteer or a mediation role there, which is easy to forget and which is absolutely crucial.
Well,
We could always go to libraries, of course. We always mention libraries every
when
week,
they're
so
open. Yeah,
we're in danger of missing them out this week.
I'm envisaging, Sweyn, as we're talking about this, an Alexa or similar voice assistant device that the person working in the library or the post office or whatever gets up, goes to the back of the office where the device is. There's ticker tape. The person asks Alexa or whoever, the question that they need to get response. They print it gets printed off and they bring it back to the. I'm just, this is my new invention. Please feel free to exploit that at will.
The first time I realized how powerful internet services were going to be was when I was on holiday in Spain in the year 2000, I think it was. And we went into a tourist office and said, when are the buses to such a place? And what the assistant did was they went to the website with the bus times on and printed the page off and handed it to us. And we thought, wow, that's clever. But actually, that is still an option.
Yeah, I remember.
It's still clever. It's still good.
A French friend of mine had a Minitel or something on her computer years ago, and she could look up all sorts of things, and I was just astounded. It was just so amazing that you would have all this information at your fingertips. We'll cover one more story, I think, Sweyn, before we call it a day. And this is one called Textocracy that I found a few weeks ago. This is a fast, easy, and affordable addition to your consultation or feedback process, giving people a simple, free way to text their comments to your organization using any simple mobile phone. So it's not completely phone free, but it is simpler. And it is a story that has come out from a tweet. I think I found it, but it says the pandemic has revealed the true extent of digital exclusion in the UK, and we must work together to make sure everybody is able to have their opinions heard. So I think this is it may have been something to do with Ken Banks, who's does a lot on texting. Might have been a story that he was involved in that I was looking at. But just another way of organizations consulting with their users in a way that's more simple than what we have. So, Bex, had you heard of this one before?
No, this one looks great though. I've already typed it in so I can look at it after the show.
Yeah, it looks like something that could be useful again to the kind of groups that we're been talking about earlier. But yeah, I think that one
surprised to me how little how little integrated text messages have become as a matter of course. I mean, I used to have a brilliant Vodafone email system, which is long defunct, which used to enable you to go online and manipulate your actual text messages online. And it surprises me that that's not a more mainstream thing, because it would be very useful at times.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we've come to the end of our allotted time, and we're very grateful, Bex, to you for coming on and telling us so much about the Tech for Good network, and I hope the soft launch goes really well on Wednesday. If people want to get in touch with you or the network online, what's the best way to do that?
I'm on Twitter at Rebecca Who, WHO, like the doctor, but I'm not a doctor. And you can get in touch with Tech for Good UK Organisers Network. We have a one-pager, but I've totally lost it. There it is. Got it. So it's Tech for Good. It's the word for Tech for Good Organisers.uk. And there's loads of information on there. Bit of a mess.
Brilliant.
I'll tidy it up soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody for listening today, and we hope you found something useful in that, and we will see you when we see you again next week. And in the meantime, have a great week.
Have a great week. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.